Greetings and salutations. I'm Luke, and I have a not indecent comic collection, and I've decided I'm going to review some of them. Starting with the Marvel Now Deadpool run, Volume 1 by, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Brian Pozzin and Tony Moore. This is probably the coolest idea for a comic that I have ever read. Deadpool is fighting to save America from an invading army of dead US presidents. The arc is 6 issues long. I'm going to go into each one by one. So, issue number 1, In Wade We Trust. So, we begin on an opening that will make this book relevant for the rest of time. America is in political turmoil. You ever hear that joke? The solution to the political divide is to resurrect George Washington and put his ass back in office? Well, a necromancer decided to do exactly that, only resurrect all the dead presidents. He gets interrupted by Captain America, who then decapitates undead Truman like a boss. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. is unable to recognize the unrivaled awesomeness of this moment, determining that the American people will be unable to handle seeing their greatest heroes killing their former leaders. So, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Preston is ordered by her jerk superior officer, Agent Gorman, to get someone else on the job. And after a fight scene where Deadpool kills an undead FDR by using his sword as an electrical current to zap him full of lightning, S.H.I.E.L.D. decides he's just the anti-hero for the job. This issue is a good tone setter for the entire arc and the whole book. It's very campy, it hits all the right notes. The dead presidents thing is not taken seriously at all. In the FDR fight scene, there are references to Keep Calm and Carry On, his New Deal. Deadpool gets some cool one-liners like referencing Ghostbusters and how old people should either be dead or in Florida. You see, the thing about Deadpool is that despite his comedic exterior, he's a very dark character, as we will see later on in this run, but not in this arc. So it's good to start off with a fun story that leads into the comic book silliness before we get into the really heavy stuff. Anyway, at the end of the issue, Deadpool confronts all the dead presidents, and he gets shot in the back of the head by Abe Lincoln. And that leads us into issue 2, We Fought a Zoo. So, Deadpool, like I said, got shot in the head by Abe Lincoln. His healing factor lets him survive, of course. And when he wakes up, he meets Ben Franklin, who is not a revived zombie, but in fact a blue ghost who has existed in this corporeal form since colonial times. Apparently, his electricity experiment let him figure out how to remain on Earth as a ghost. Somehow. I try to explain it has something to do with electricity. It doesn't really make any sense. Meanwhile, undead Washington and Kennedy have kidnapped the necromancer who brought them back, whose name is Michael, by the way, so that he can also raise them an undead army of their former dead soldiers. While all that's going on, Deadpool runs off to fight Teddy Roosevelt in a zoo. He gets told by Ben Franklin that the key to killing the presidents is electricity, so Deadpool uses a ripped-out wire from a power box to kill old Teddy R, along with a very beloved elephant. Insert your Harambe joke here. S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Preston, realizing that they're outside of their depth here, they enlist help from Doctor Strange, the guy in the Marvel Universe everyone goes to deal with the magical shenanigans. And that leads us to issue 3, Doctor Strange Lives. You get it? It's like Doctor Strange Love, but they're fighting undead presidents. That's the joke. This issue is not like Doctor Strange Love at all. The pun has no other meaning. Despite being reluctant at first, Strange does agree to help. He uses some magic tracking spell to find Washington and Lincoln, and Deadpool and Preston engage them in a fight scene while Strange takes the necromancer to the astral plane to talk to him. It's here that we get Michael's backstory, how he used his innate magical powers to bring his pet back to life, a la Pet Sematary. Also, it's here that it's revealed that Michael was an ex-member of S.H.I.E.L.D. before he devolved into becoming a magical hobo. So anyway, Deadpool gets crushed inside of a car by zombie Washington and then freaking super kicked and launched up into an apartment complex by the other presidents. And then Doctor Strange comes back and turns Deadpool's sword into a magical sword that he uses to blow up Richard Nixon. And then Strange kind of pieces out of the story. Whatever, it's about Deadpool. This leads us right into issue 4, The Quick, the Dead, and the Really Dead. So issue 4 opens with Deadpool cross-dressing as Marilyn Monroe so he can kill John F. Kennedy, which apparently Kennedy is dumb enough to fall for. And then we switch over to Deadpool going on a killing spree of a bunch of, and I'm quoting him directly here, D-list presidents, Zachary Taylor and John Tyler and the like. Which, fair. I mean, most Americans couldn't tell those guys apart if they tried. Also, apparently, even though the comic directly established that only electricity and that magical Doctor Strange sword was able to kill the undead presidents, Deadpool can apparently just slice them open with a sword and shoot them with bullets, and they're dead now. Comic apparently forgot its own rules, but moving on. So, after using a bunch of explosives to blow up Herbert Hoover inside a car at his own dam, we then switch over to where Michael, remember the necromancer, is being questioned by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. He used to belong to a secret magic division of S.H.I.E.L.D. that was shut down. Agent in charge of the program was called Tango, though now he goes by Agent Gorman. Who? Oh, right, that jerk from the beginning of the story. See, that was the real reason why he didn't want the main authorities to deal with this issue head on. So, after that, we cut to Las Vegas, where Deadpool and zombie Abe Lincoln can have a big boxing match. Deadpool ditches his weapons for the fight, which turns out to be a gigantic mistake because he gets his ass royally handed to him by Zombie Abe. Doesn't even get a single shot in edgewise until the very end, where he cheats by using his magic sword to kill Abe Lincoln. Now, you'd think you'd want your main protagonist to seem more effective, but then again, Deadpool was effectively killing the presidents before this, so I'm not totally sure. Also, there's a brief stint where Abe Lincoln it goes through all the criticisms of Abe's character, and it ends with Deadpool cutting his head off. Was that supposed to be cathartic? I'm not really sure. Anyway, the issue ends with the reveal that zombie Ronald Reagan has snuck onto the International Space Station for what is no doubt nefarious purposes. This brings us into issue 5, Star Wars Revenge of the Gipper. I'm sure that is a reference to an old Ronald Reagan movie. I do not know it. I do not care to know it. So Deadpool is able to have Michael use his magic to teleport him up onto the space station. And then, again, we engage in a long fight scene, this time with zombie Ronald Reagan, which ultimately ends with Deadpool shooting a bunch of holes into the space station walls, causing Reagan to be violently sucked down through tiny bullet holes into space, which is a very amusing image, to say the least. And then Deadpool, being Deadpool, ends up crashing the International Station back down to Earth in several pieces all over America. So Preston and Deadpool meet up again. Preston is, actually, all things considered, pretty pleased that the mission is going well. The zombie army is almost completely annihilated. Hey, this is the 5th issue out of 6, after all. But then zombie George Washington teleports right next to them. You see, ever since they kidnapped Michael, they stole the magic book he was using to use his powers, and Washington has been reading that to learn how to use the powers for himself. And hey, this is the Marvel Universe. Apparently anyone can learn magic, even undead presidents, if they're willing to learn. Kinda makes you wonder why the other Avengers don't take up magic, but anyway, Washington uses his forces to engage an assault that ends up killing both Preston and Deadpool. Obviously, because of Deadpool's healing factor, he is able to survive quite fine. Preston, being totally human, less so. Michael is able to, at the last second, teleport both their kneeling, dying bodies away before they can finish off. Preston still dies, unfortunately. Alright, we're going to finish off with issue 6, National Mall. So, now that Washington believes that all of his threats have been eliminated, he finally upgrades to doing a full-out undead offensive on the White House. Deadpool manages to get on the scene, and after a brief scene where Preston's partner Adsit, who had a minor role in the story, kills Zombie Taft, you know, the big fat president, he rides around in a flying bathtub in this story, because he got stuck in the bathtub. Anyway, yeah, Adsit murders him with a gigantic mech. Deadpool marches onto the Capitol, and he instantly walks into like a death bubble that Washington has created. Everyone who walks into it dies, and when Deadpool walks into it, he also dies. I think it's because of his healing factor that he ends up being able to get right back up after a brief meeting with a shiny golden lady. Possibly he saw heaven and the woman that we're going to learn more about later in this series. Anyway, Deadpool is able to get right back up and continue the fight. Deadpool, enraged, doesn't really like having his friends die on him. He's fresh out of quips, and he tears Zombie Washington's head off of his body with his bare hands. Yeah! And then he punt kicks his head right into the lap of the Lincoln Memorial. With the crisis now completely averted, conveniently, Gorman shows back up again. He tries to chew Wade out for doing a terrible job and getting Preston killed, but luckily for Deadpool, the Avengers almost immediately show up out of nowhere in order to congratulate him on a job well done, although a comment by Captain America seems to imply that they'll not actually be giving Deadpool credit for having saved the White House. Because again, anti-hero, his life sucks. But as Deadpool walks off into the sunset, he is met by the revelation of Preston's voice in his head. Now, he does at first think that this is another one of the symptoms of him being bonkers crazy, but no, as it turns out, just before she died, Michael used his magic to transfer Preston's consciousness into Deadpool's brain. And lo, we now have a new status quo for the book. And the story for now ends there. Well, there you go. That was my first review of Deadpool Volume 1. Hope y'all liked it. This is my first video. I'm not sure if I'm actually any good at this yet. So what did I think of it? All in all, I think it's a great starter to the series. If you don't want to get invested, it's a great standalone read, so it's worth a buy no matter what. But if you do get invested into the characters, the story does a great job setting up their dynamics. Michael is like a bumbling screw-up. The Ben Franklin ghost is this pervert that can't actually be with any of those women because, he's a ghost, which is an entertaining joke. Deadpool's the Joker, and Preston's the straight man. Yeah, I'd say the book is worth a purchase. Like, comment, and subscribe. Farewell, and a bit adieu.